Let's roll up a character using original Dungeons and Dragons rules. Welcome to my channel. I focus on tabletop role-playing games, video games, and science fiction. All right, let's roll up a character. Strength, we have 13. Intelligence, we have 13. Wisdom, we have 12. Dexterity, we have 7. Constitution, we have 11. Charisma, we have 9. Now we roll for how many gold they start off with. And this person only starts off with 70. In original Dungeons and Dragons, you rolled 3d6. Not 4d6, taking the highest 3. You rolled 3d6. You rolled the stats in order. You didn't rearrange them. That was the character you created. You didn't do anything else to them. That was your character. So it was like what you're born with. The DNA you're born with, you didn't have much of a choice in your DNA. That was perhaps your parents, shall we say, but it was you were given a set of DNA, and this is the DNA of your character. This is what you rolled up. This is what you have. This is what you have to play with. You didn't say, "Oh, I want a paladin, so I want to do this." No, you rolled up the stats. Then you would determine what he would be or she would be based upon your roles. You didn't add things because of racial benefits. You checked to see if you could be that race based upon your roles. This made characters like paladins much harder to run, much rarer. You didn't run across them very frequently because you had to roll very high to create a character, or a monk, or a bard. You had to have high enough stats in all of those things. If you wanted to be an elf, you had to meet the racial requirements. You didn't say, "Oh, I have an elf, so I get these benefits." No, you chose to be that. And there were limitations. When you chose to be a dwarf, there were classes that you couldn't be. There were limits on how high a level you could go. And the same thing was true. So this is the very significant fundamental difference between original Dungeons and Dragons and later Dungeons and Dragons. Because you could go, "Oh, I want to play a wizard." Well, okay, anybody could play a wizard. Actually, that's not completely true. There were limits. I was trying to find them. There's some things, if you have below 5 in intelligence, you can only be a fighter, I believe. There are certain limits that were in there that you had they could limit on your options of what you could do. It's like if you're born and you just don't have the stamina, then you can't be a long distance runner. You have to have the proper genetics, and in Dungeons and Dragons you had to roll the character. So you had far fewer esoteric classes because your characters just you didn't roll the dice to create them. They were rare. They were purposely rare. That gave a very different balance to the game. That's why I once said that the modern versions of Dungeons and Dragons is like a superhero game. You have all these spells and things like that with feats and whatever, but it's not like it was in the original Dungeons and Dragons. You rolled up your character, you got your stats, then based upon what you rolled up, you would decide what to make them. or what they could possibly be. And the only exception was if you rolled under 5, I think in more than 2 of your primary stats. That's strength, intelligence, wisdom, and dexterity. If 2 of those were 5 or below, then the character's dead. But that's the only time, because you can't, at that point, you can't be any class. But if you have one of them under 5, well, that's your character. That's your luck. Luck of the draw. I remember playing a character who had what was it? It was charisma of 3. But you don't see that in the modern. Oh, we just roll. We just go with the stats. And I think that's where you lose the real taste of the old school rules. You don't decide you're going to play a paladin. You roll up and then see if your rolls were good enough to become a paladin. Very different. And you don't decide, you don't say, oh, I'm going to be an elf. You roll up and then see if you meet the racial requirements to be an elf, and so on. So I hope that gives you a different flavor for character generation. It's much simpler in the original Dungeons and Dragons, but it has some subtle difficulties, because now the question, like the character I rolled up, what do you make them? You've got sort of a mediocre character, but that makes it more interesting, and you don't have much money to spend. So yes, I have done it where characters have started off with 30 gold. That's it. That one was a challenging. When you've got 30 gold and you're joining a party, what do you do? Because that's all the gold you have. That's all the gold you can spend to start the adventure. That's where they go out and break a limb off of the tree and go, I want to form this into a club. Yes, I've been there and played those type of characters and ran those type of games where characters at the start are scrambling for anything to use as a weapon. So I hope you enjoyed this taste of what old school gaming was really like. I look forward to learning what you think about this video. Do you like this style of video? Let me know in the comments below. If you like the video, give me a thumbs up. If you don't, give me a thumbs down. I appreciate both. If you're new here and want to subscribe, there's an icon that you can click that's on the left, or on the right, there's links to 2 other pieces of content. Thank you.